Hello, everybody. This is Poonam Sagar at Indoindians.com. And today we have a very special session with Brother Charles Hogg, who is the National Coordinator of the Brahma Kumaris in Australia. Brahma Kumaris is a worldwide spiritual movement dedicated to personal transformation and world renewal. Founded in India in 1937, Brahma Kumaris has spread to over 110 countries on all continents and has an extensive impact on many sectors and is also an international NGO. Today, we have Brother Charlie, who is the National Coordinator of the Brahma Kumaris in Australia and the Chairman of its Board of Directors. He is based in Sydney and regularly visits the 40 Brahma Kumari centers around Australia. Hello, Brother Charlie. How are you doing?
Thank you, Sister Poonam. I'm very well, thank you. Lovely to be with you.
Thank you. We have a small set of questions. We thought we'll just go through you and learn a little bit more about you.
Thank you.
So, Brother Charlie, please, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what attracted you to the Brahma Kumari organization?
Yes, Sister Poonam, I actually grew up in Melbourne. And I think really from a fairly young age, I was the sort of person who was a searcher. I was looking for something. And I dabbled in many things in my teenage years. And when I was when I left school, I started university. But I traveled the world and I lived in religious communities, really in Southeast Asia, in India, in the Middle East, in Africa, and Europe. And really, as I traveled, I think that the main question for me really on this spiritual journey was, how do you experience? How do you convert the beliefs, the ideas, the philosophies into an internal feeling? And I settled in London. I was actually working in London. And I was visiting all the various religious and spiritual organizations. There's so many in London. And when I came to the Brahma Kumaris, to be very open, I could see on the faces of the sisters that there was something deep happening inside. And so it's always interesting. I think often it's not so much what you hear, it's what you observe or feel, the vibrations that really actually attracted me towards the Brahma Kumaris.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Did you always dream to do what you're doing now? Or did life throw a particular opportunity your way?
I didn't really dream what I'm doing now. In fact, I was studying architecture, but to be frank, I couldn't see myself really working in that world. And so as I traveled and I could see just how much, the world was really going through such a difficult time. To be frank, I was thinking of coming back to Australia and studying some social work and joining a United Nations agency. But when I began to meditate, it was like a revelation how different my mind felt. My mind felt completely different from before. I could taste peace. So peace just wasn't something which came and went according to the circumstances and personalities. I could create thoughts and create a feeling of peace regardless of the environment I was in. And I really just felt that there's nothing more important for a human being than a peace of mind. And, I love talking to people about these things. I really love it. Yes.
I like the phrase you said, I tasted peace. And I think that is so nice, that you imbibe it and you experience it with your whole being. I think that's beautiful.
Absolutely.
What, in your view, is the role of spirituality in contemporary life?
I think there's nothing more important than spirituality at the moment. Life is very superficial today. And, everything is external. It's all about the external world. And yet, wherever you go in the world, whatever the culture or background, there's a huge emptiness. And this emptiness, we give labels to it. It's depression, it's stress, it's tension, it's sadness, it's unhappiness. And I think that, the whole of spirituality is really about getting to know who you are and experiencing who you are. And, I really feel, in a sense, the reason we have the world we have is because this first relationship in life is so damaged. The first relationship in life is with me, and it's so unhealthy today. Scratch the surface, and unfortunately, most of us have a very negative view of ourselves, even though we may look different on the surface externally. And this is why I feel that, we always suggest in our centers to keep a balance in life. Give time for your family, time for work, but it is essential in this world to care for myself. Otherwise, I think a lot of people are finding themselves mentally very empty and unfortunately quite depressed and anxious.
Right. I like the relationship with yourself. I understand, and I appreciate what you're saying about your relationship with yourself is also the first step towards spirituality, about connecting with your inner spirit. And yes, it is incredibly, as I see around myself, and as I have experienced too, it is all about first your relationship with yourself.
Absolutely. This is the beginning of everything. And if that relationship's not healthy, it influences your health, your family, your work, each part of your life. Right. And spirituality is about creating a healthy relationship with the self.
So, Brother Charlie, just taking it a step further in understanding a little bit about your life, what do you do in the first 60 minutes of the day?
It's an interesting question. For nearly 50 years, I have the practice. I wake up maybe 3:30 a.m. in the morning.
Oh, wow.
No matter where I am. And from 4 to 4:45 or 5 o'clock, I sit in meditation. And what I do is I first connect with the self as the soul. And in a sense, I try to move beyond all the labels of my body, that body consciousness, and absolutely experience the peace, which is the true nature of the self. And then I really look through the eye of my mind and I connect with God. I absorb in God. And in a sense, I allow myself to be completely loved by God. I feel there's no more powerful therapy, if you can use that word, to cool my inner world down, feel love, feel belonging, feel settled, feel strong. And the result is that a sense of well-being, that relationship with the self is so deeply healed. And I feel that 45 minutes to an hour every morning is like a platform for when you step into the day with your family and with your work and all the busyness. You've built an internal platform to be strong and manage all the challenges which life throws to all of us on a daily basis.
I think that's amazing. And you mentioned that you studied to be an architect, but it seems to me that everything you do is a way to make things more peaceful and more conducive to living life every moment. And meditation is a way to create that platform, as you said. The word platform is a foundation by which you can then approach every day.
It's beautiful how you've described that, because in a way, I often see people see meditation as something you do morning and night, you sit down. But for me, it's more like an attitude to life. I've made a decision. I'm a peaceful soul. That's who I am as a person. No matter how people behave, no matter what the situations, I'm not going to leave my religion of peace. And So meditation is more like an attitude to everything, regardless. And at first you may fluctuate, but after a while you really feel an internal stability.
Right. Thank you for sharing, Brother Charlie. You mentioned all this about peace, but do you ever have tough days? And if yes, what gets you through a tough day?
I don't think I really have really tough days. Of course, challenges come to everybody, but as I said, I would say when I started to meditate, I would fluctuate. Life would throw me around. After a while, I became more stable. But, I've had a daily practice, as I said, for nearly 50 years, and it's really transformed me. And yes, when a challenge comes, I always have the thought, I am responsible for how I feel. Because I think when you take responsibility, let's say someone is difficult, rude, unpleasant, I have a choice. Do I absorb it or do I observe it? And if I absorb it, really, that's my choice. And so I always take responsibility for my thoughts and try to keep my thoughts in good shape. And if something does affect me, my aim is to bounce back almost instantly, back into that sense of inner peace, self-respect, self-wisdom, the connection with God. No doubt it takes practice.
For you, Brother Charlie, for that, because that is super, super difficult, to be responsible, to know that you're responsible for your reaction to whatever is happening around you.
But Sister Poonam, it's like that's the truth of life. And the culture today is to blame everyone and everything for how I feel, which is actually a falsehood. And when I build my life on falsehoods, I'm constantly deceived. And when I take responsibility, it does need a lot of courage and honesty with the self. But in the long term, it makes you strong and stable and able to deal with the huge challenges that everyone is facing in life today.
And I see that how meditation can help you be the first step towards being peaceful within, so that you can approach life with a more peaceful way to look at things.
That's so true. That's so true.
So, Brother Charlie, what is your favorite question you ask yourself?
Probably the question I keep in the top of my mind, probably two questions, to be honest. But the first one is, am I living in my self-respect? Mm-hmm. Because I find when I'm in my sense of self-value, life becomes easy. I feel I can respect others. I can let go when there's problems and challenges, these sorts of things. And probably a question which is with me all the time, really, how close do I feel to God? Because I find that, when I just even think of God, I feel I then know what is the right response. If something's negative, just to be peaceful, to be calm. When someone's going through challenges, not to create negative thoughts about them, So the question is really, how do I live in my self-respect, and do I feel close to God? They're probably the questions which are foremost in my mind.
And both of them are very big questions.
They are. Yeah, they're very big questions. But yeah, I think it helps sustain me as a person, both of those questions.
Right. Brother Charlie, last question I'd like to ask you is, the last 2 years have been super challenging globally with the pandemic. And are there any lessons, or maybe 3 lessons that you have, taken from these 2 years, which you could share with us?
Yes, there's so much learning at the moment, isn't it? And to me, probably the first lesson is that there's dramatic change in the world. Everything outside is changing so fast. I can't rely on everything externally. So I've got to build an internal platform of stability, because if I'm dependent on the external atmosphere and so many things remaining the same, I'm going to get knocked over. completely. And probably the second thing is that it's never been more important, as I was saying, to really care for my mind, my emotions, and my spiritual self. Because, when I can manage my inner world, I can manage the external world around me. And probably the third thing I find is that everyone who comes to our meditation centers is worried about family members and close friends, because so many people are having a difficult time. The World Health Organization says 1 in 4 is depressed, and really anxiety is now so high in the majority of the population. And what I find is one of the main lessons: the more I'm stable, I remain light, I remain peaceful, I remain close to God. There's no greater gift for those who are close to you. When you're in a good state of mind, it automatically influences the people you love. So sometimes I think there's a difference between emotional support and spiritual support. Emotional support is talking, trying to encourage people. That's good. But spiritual support is just holding their value in my attitude, being an example, being strong, being stable. We can't underestimate the power of that lesson at the moment. So the more I remain stable, I can give that gift to those who are around me.
Thank you so much, Brother Charlie. That's a really lovely statement that you just made about being like the eye of the storm, be calm within, like the lodestone that is within you, so that you can just, with the chaos around you, you know where you are at peace, and you are stable. And I think that's a huge lesson.
It is a huge lesson. It's so true. So true.
Thank you so much, Brother Charlie, for sharing your insights and very interesting way in which we can find peace within ourselves. And I'm sure the Brahma Kumaris are doing so many ways, the yoga, the meditation, and all other resources that they have that help you to also find the peace. I noticed that we also have some people who have joined the Zoom call. If anybody would like to ask a question of Brother Charlie here, maybe you could just raise a hand and then I could ask you to speak. Maybe for the next 5 minutes, we could have a short Q&A. If anybody would like to ask a question? Sister Justina, Brother Sam, Ibu Nuni. I think they are all on mute, and I think they are still trying to. It's a lot of food for thought what you've already shared with us. So I'm really grateful for your time, Brother Charlie.
Thank you so much for having me, Sister Poonam. I've really enjoyed being with you.
Thank you so much.
much.
Thank you. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.